When you understand that dogs, they don't speak English. You can't use human psychology with a dog. You can't use cat psychology. You can't apply fish psychology to a dog. It's not going to work. You have to understand dog psychology. And I don't know what other dog trainers would have done in that situation, other than suggest they built the fence higher. And they tried everything, like leaving bones down, leaving food down. It never works. Hello, fellow dog lovers. Doggy Dan here. Welcome to another edition of Pup Dates. And this month we are doing the moral of the story. So today I thought, as I walk my dogs, I would share probably the most, in terms of psychology, the most fascinating dog consult I've ever done. It's a bit of a long video, so maybe wait till you're in the car listen to it, or make sure you got time. And I want to say up front, I'm not going to give you the full solution, because that's like trying to give you the 1 minute version of Lord of the Rings. And if you've seen Lord of the Rings, it's a big story. You can't summarize it in 30 seconds and do it justice. But what I will say is the solution was we put in place the dog calming code. All right, so let me share what's going on. And the moral of the story, I'm going to tell you up front, it's all to do with dog psychology sometimes, nothing to do with training. Forget training. Sometimes training is not the solution to getting your dog to do what you want, believe it or not, because I'm getting distracted here a little bit and going off tangent, but this is important. The problem with dog training is we start by saying to the dog, I want you to do what I want you to do. Well, hang on. As my wife always says, nobody's interested in what you got to say until they know you care. And that's where Dog Psychology 101 comes in. That's where the dog calming code is so important, because it's the piece which says, hey, I care, I understand you, I speak your language, then the dog's listening. So I went around to this dog's house, and I'm going to use this dog's real name because I'm sure they don't mind. Dog was called Zippy. She was, I can't quite remember. She was like a hunt away. It's a New Zealand breeder dog, a little bit of brown kind of maybe collie in there. Anyway, Zippy, the problem with Zippy is when they came home, Zippy was running away. She would jump the fence. They'd put 6-foot high fences in. She'd leap over them. They'd put fences on an angle. They'd put wire up, and they'd blocked off all the holes. They could not stop Zippy from escaping the property. They'd tied her up even, and they didn't like doing that. They were lovely people. So there was I knew straight away this wasn't a case of a dog who was unhappy and who was being smacked or anything like that. So I was kind of confused straight away. I was like, so Zippy runs away when you come home. And so immediately my brain went into why would a dog do that? The other issue with Zippy was Zippy had zero behavioral issues other than that. So she came when they called. She didn't pull on the leash. She was a very well-behaved dog. She sat when they asked her to. She was good with the children. To be honest, I was pretty stumped. I'm sat there going through everything, trying to figure this out, because one of the problems I had was, how do you start solving a problem which kind of only happens when you kind of walk in the house? The dog tries to get away. I mean, if the dog doesn't have any behavioral issues, right? How do you say to the dog, behave? You say come, it sits, it walks on the leash, it doesn't bark, doesn't jump up, everything. It's perfect. So we were a bit stumped. And the clue was when I was chatting to them, I remember the lady, I think it was, suddenly said to me something along the lines of, it all started when we, she said, the same thing happened when we had our first child. I said, whoa, hang on, what? She said, yeah, when we had our first child, Zippy started running away, and then it kind of stopped. And she said, that's how we actually knew we were pregnant, or we thought we might be pregnant, because Zippy started running away again. And then, sure enough, we, had the tests done, and it turned out we were pregnant. So I was like, whoa, hang on. Because what I do is more about dog psychology in a way than trying to train a dog. I was like, hang on. So Zippy did this a long time ago when you had your first child, and you actually realized you were pregnant partly because Zippy started running away again, and you kind of thought, hang on, maybe we're pregnant. She said, yeah, absolutely. So then I started thinking, well, hang on, because this method that I use is so much connected to seeing the dogs as kind of like a pack, a bit like a wolf pack, where there's an alpha male, there's an alpha female, there's leaders and followers. And in the wild, basically, the alpha male and the alpha female, they are kind of the ones who have the pups. The female, the alpha female gets pregnant, and they all look after those pups. And other dogs or wolves, can become pregnant, but they tend not to. It tends to be the alphas, and what can happen is sometimes when a female kind of feels like she's in charge and she wants to set up her own pack, she will separate from the pack in the wolf pack, and she'll go and set up her own pack, or they'll find a male and they'll disappear off, and that's how the wolves they get a big pack and then they move on. So I was like, okay, there's something in the fact that you became pregnant and she left your house, started running away. So I said to them, where does Zippy go when she runs away? And this was a big, big key. I said, does she go down the park? Does she start looking for food? You'll love the answer. And they said to me, no. When she runs away, she goes about 100 yards down the road, jumps the fence into the garden where there's a big male dog, and she just stays there. I was like, whoa, no way. So basically this dog is behaving like she would in the wild, in a way. Because what was happening, and I'm not going to go too much into the solution, but in my belief, this was my theory, my hypothesis, was that Zippy was being given the messages that she was in charge, and she was, and Zippy saw herself as the alpha female. And when the lady became pregnant, this is my word that I use to best describe it, Zippy decided it was an abomination. It was an absolute travesty of justice, and she wasn't having any of it, and she was leaving. She wasn't going to be a part of this when the lady in the house became pregnant, and she just went and found herself a new place to live, to be. She found herself another male to settle down with. So I explained to them how the method worked. I explained to them that the solution, I believed, was to make sure Zippy understood she was not the alpha female. She wasn't in charge, and that the lady was. And they bought into it. And for those of you that know the dog calming code, you'll know one of the most powerful rules is all about controlling the food. And there was something we did with the food. I'm not going to go into it because, like I say, it's like doing a 30-second job on Lord of the Rings. But it was basic. We said to Zippy, I control the food. I eat first, not you. And we put a few things in place because it's a lovely rule. We did that with Zippy. Straight away, she stopped running away. And that's why I love the dog calming code, because when you understand that dogs, they don't speak English. You can't use human psychology with a dog. You can't use cat psychology. You can't apply fish psychology to a dog. It's not going to work. You have to understand dog psychology. And I don't know what other dog trainers would have done in that situation other than suggest they built the fence higher. And they tried everything, like leaving bones down, leaving food down. It never works. Nothing would work. So sometimes you have to hook into that psychology side of things. That's what's really going to get your dog on side with you so you can train them. And also, sometimes you don't even need to train them. Just putting that dog psychology piece in place makes sense to the dogs. The dog goes, okay, I get it. I'm happy now. I'll switch off. I'll relax. You make all the decisions. Everything becomes so much easier. Alrighty, so that's another edition of Pup Dates. Moral of the story: if training's not working, try something else. Maybe your dog needs a little bit of dog psychology. Maybe you need to think like a dog. Take care, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Bunny! Bunny, bunny, bunny! Good girl. Good girl. Sit. Sit. Right.